Let's go to the world, press B. As you can see, the line trace has already begun. There is an impact point. We can select this, and as you can see, we can look around, but we are not able to move as of right now. So now we should create some camera movement. That we are going to do in our third-person character event graph, and we need the keyboard. I'm gonna do this on the keyboard W key and keyboard ASD keys. So now for these ones, I want to create a loop so that once we press this, the loop begins, and once we release it, the loop ends. But if we create a regular loop, it's going to be super fast and it will create some lag issues. So what I will do is create a new macro, and I'm going to call this the step loop, which is going to allow us to delay our loop from executions. So what we need over here is a execution pin, which is going to be called in. Then we need 2 integers, and these are going to be the first index, just like in the regular loop, and this is going to be the last index. And we also need a next step, which is going to allow us to proceed with the next index in the loop. And also another one, which is going to be the break, which is going to allow us to break the loop. And for the output, we also need the loop body execution. We need a complete, and in the middle we will add an index just in case if we need it. I don't think we do, but this thing comes in handy quite a bit actually to delay some pretty heavy processes so that they wouldn't launch like crazy. So what we are going to do now is from this in, we are going to do the assign, macro assign. Then we need another one of these right here. And so what we need is a local boolean, and also we need a local integer, which is going to add basically these indexes. So this boolean goes in the variable over here, and this integer goes in the variable over here. Now if we compile this, you can see that we get these values, and this value needs to be left empty. This needs to be false by default, and this value is our first index. Then what we want to do next is let's connect this, and well, let's do the break first. Let's do another assign, and we need to again connect our local boolean over here. And now if we compile this, we can set this to true, which is basically going to allow us to break the loop. While it's false, the loop can continue. So now we are going to select our local integer, and we are going to check if this is smaller or equal to the last index, like so. And also what we need is we need this local boolean not value, so not boolean. And over here we can do a AND to see if these are equal values, if these are all like they need to be. And from here we can do a if branch check, which comes from this integer assign node right here, and the true value goes in the loop body. So if everything is fine, then we can proceed with the loop body. If it's false, then we are basically completing the loop. Also, this index needs to come from the local integer, so this is going to represent the current index that we are on. And now let's work on the next step, which again needs to be a assign node. Whoops, we don't need to assign a vector, we need to simply assign something, and we are going to set this to be the local integer variable, like so. And for the value, we need to select the local integer. We need to do a +1 so that we would go to the next integer, like so. So we are assigning the next index, and then we can proceed to our Boolean check once again. And I believe this should work perfectly. Yep. So this is a step loop which allows us to control the pace of the loop rather than just running wild and crazy. So now back in our event graph with the W key pressed, we can do a if branch check to see if our construction mode is on, because I only want this to launch while our construction mode is on. If it's not on, we want to have the regular controls which do not manipulate the camera. And from the true, we can add our step loop. Let's set this to in. The first index is going to leave at 0, and the last index, well, I'm going to put this to 2000. So basically, that the player, if the player is just falling asleep and he's just holding the W forever, so that the command would finish after 2001 attempt. Now for this W, we will need a follow camera component, because what we want to do is get the world location so that we know where is our camera, and also we need to get our forward vector so that we know a direction in which we need to move on. From here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add vector plus vector, world location plus another vector, which is going to be our forward vector plus, or times rather, let's make this rather times integer, just like we did in over here on the line trace. We are creating a location in front of our camera. So I'm gonna make this, let's say 10, and now we can add this to the world location. So this basically sets a new location for our camera, which is a few units in front of where it is right now. But since we set the camera boom target arm length to 0, then we are not going to change the follow camera, but we are going to change the location of the camera boom itself. So let's add the camera boom, and let's set world location. There we go. And this goes into the loop body, and the new location is this location that we just created. From here we can do a delay, flow control delay, and I'm gonna make this to 0.01. This is going to be very fast, and this complete can go in the next step. There we go. So this is all set up, and now on the released key we are going to break our loop. There we go. So now let's compile this, let's save this, let's go to the game, let's press play, B, let's select the buildable, and now you can see that we are allowed to move forward. Awesome. But I guess we have an issue with our we have a small issue with our line trace. It just stopped. Of course our construction stopped because we never launched the construction delay. So from this line trace by channel, let's do a let's just type in delay, and here it is, construction delay. So now our line trace by channel is going to shoot all the time. It's going to create a line every 0.01 seconds. So now if we walk around, you can see that these lines are getting created everywhere, and as long as you have a debug type in the line trace by channel for duration, you can see these lines over here and the impact points as well. So now everything is working just fine, but as of right now only the W is working. So let's set up all the other keys. So back in our event graph, I will move these down a little bit, and actually I will move the S up. So now let's work on the S, which is gonna be, let's see, let's reuse some of the nodes maybe. Let's move these down a bit. Let's move these over here. And now we can copy this if branch check step loop locations, and like so. So let's copy this whole bunch. This is pressed, this is released, and this is all good and fun. And now for the S, we need to do a similar thing. We can do a forward vector times an integer, which is going to be, again, let's make this 10 again. So 10, and now this time from the world location we want to do a vector minus vector because we want to remove 10 units. So let's add this to the location, and now we are able to fly technically backwards as well. So now for our A and D keys, the whole thing is going to be quite similar. So I'm going to copy the whole thing except for the event nodes. So I'm going to paste these in right here. I'm going to move the D key down. So this is on pressed. So break is on released. And the only thing that's going to be different in this case is we don't need a forward vector. We need to get a right vector. So we can reconnect this over here. I did this by holding Control and dragging. So I just simply reconnected all the pins that were connected to the forward vector. And now if we compile and save this, we should be able to walk sideways as well. So we are walking sideways, but in my case I'm moving the other way. I'm pressing right, but I'm moving left. So that means I just simply need to swap few values. So in the event graph, this needs to be a minus. So let's do minus vector. There we go. This one right here. So we can remove this. And over here we need to do a plus vector. This one over here. So there we go. This is a bit messy, but well, it is what it is. As of right now, we're going to work on this a little more because we still need to clamp the values so that we wouldn't be able to basically fly back to our game world. But as of right now, this is good. So if we press B, select the buildable, and we can fly around. Awesome. So we should add 2 more controls to this, I believe. I think a good thing would be shift and space, just like in Minecraft. So you can simply change the Z-axis, get higher or lower depending on your location. So now back in this same position, location, call it whatever you want. In this event graph, I'm gonna add a left shift, keyboard left shift. And I'm also going to add a space event, space bar. There we go. But for these ones, this is going to be a bit simpler. So what I will do is copy some things. Basically, I will copy if branch check, loop, camera boom, and the set world location and delay nodes. Like so. So these ones over here. Again, this is on pressed and the break is on released. But for the world location, we're gonna do this very simple. What we are gonna do is we need to get world location. And basically we need to do a world location vector minus vector and simply remove a little bit from our Z values. So on shift I want to go down, so I'm going to make this -5 and connect this to the new value, and then I can copy the whole thing again. There we go. Pressed, released, and on this one we can do, wait, since this is a minus, that we don't need a -5, we simply need 5. And here we need to do a plus vector, and this is going to be 5. In case if you didn't know, you can also over here you could do vector plus vector, but instead of typing in 5, we can type in -5. So that's the mistake I made previously. But either way it works. If you just simply do a vector minus vector and type in just 5, it will work the same way as vector plus vector with a minus 5. If that sounded a bit complicated, but hopefully you know what I mean. And so now with space and shift we can go up and down and everything is great. So our controls are created. So what we want to do next is clamp the values so that we wouldn't be able to basically fly out of this area that we have dedicated for our build mode. And what we need is the world locations. So I will add a cube and I will align this perfectly with the center like so. So this basically gives me the edge values. So X is going to be 1000 at the highest. So, and the lowest is going to be 2000. And for the Y it is 23,500 is the highest value, I believe. Yes, and the lowest is 26,500. So these are the locations that we need. So for this I will create a new function which I'm gonna call clamp camera clamp construction camera. And for this I need an input which is gonna be the vector. So in vec and out vec. So basically from this one we want to break the vector, and here we want to make a vector, and over here I want to clamp all of my XYZ axis. So I'm gonna use float clamp. I'm gonna copy this for each of the axes. So XYZ, and this is the end position. So the minimum X was minus 2000, the maximum was 1000, the Y was minimum was minus 26,500, and the maximum is minus 23,500. And for the Z axis I'm gonna do minimum is gonna be 170 and the maximum, let's say 2000. We might change this, but as of right now I think this is gonna be good. So we are doing this function so that we wouldn't have to clamp outside in the event graph every single one of these. So now what we can do is simply add this function over here in the loop body. And what I want to do is actually move these back so I have space for this node. So this is the in vector and the out vector goes in here. So this is way too far out. And now let's add clamps to all of these locations. So we have successfully clamped all the axes. So now we can test this out and see that we are no longer able to fly outside of this specified area. So if you press B, select the buildable and try to fly out, you can see that it is forbidding us from flying outside, and also it should forbid us from flying. Yes, so this is the as high as we can get. So now we have clamped this. So our controls are all set up. The one last thing what I want to do before I end this video is to remove this widget once we come back to this world right here. So in our build menu, let's see, we have a button turn build mode off. So we're turning the build mode off, setting the focus back. We are resetting the construction camera. So I believe this is a good location to do this, in the reset build camera location. We can drag in the widget that we have created, and here we can just simply remove from parent, and this will remove only this one specific widget that we have created, and nobody will have any issues with extra widgets getting removed. So now we are over here. Let's press B once more and let's turn this off, and we are back to normal. So thank you guys for watching. See you guys in the next video where we are going to spawn our floors. So see ya.